Hello there. My name is Jen Barkin. I'm an online sales coach for Do You Convert? And welcome to Online People Talking, or OPT as we like to call it. This series is dedicated to enhancing the careers and lives of the new home online sales specialist. We'll talk about real life challenges, stories, and solutions just for you. So grab your coffee, grab your water, grab your tea, whatever you have this today, and settle in because I have a really, really special guest today, Miss Cori Masters, Mrs. Cori Masters, excuse me. Welcome to Opt, Cori. I have been looking forward to this. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you. I told Jen this is like a dream come true to be here, so I'm super excited.
Oh, well, let me tell you guys a little bit about Cori. I have known Cori for, I don't know, I feel like probably 6 years. She's actually been an online sales specialist for almost 7 years in the industry. And I first met Cori actually when I was an online sales specialist myself. And our company was reaching out to the company she worked for, Royal Oaks Homes at the time, Royal Oak Homes at the time, and to get some advice from her and to see how they were set up on their end. And, you know, Cori is, I just can't say enough great things about her. Like I said, she's been in the industry almost 7 years. She actually, I thought this was interesting, Cori. I learned in your bio that you moved from Japan. You were a photographer. Is
Yes, that's right.
that correct? So
Yes,
you
that's
moved. Yeah. And, you know, I think that background of living in Italy and Japan has really helped you with, you know, working with different buyers from different backgrounds, which is what we're going to talk about today. You know, Cori, you might have seen her most recently on the virtual IBS
right.
stage. She partnered up with our friends Carrie Mulcroney and Laura Hansen to do a session at IBS called Humanizing the Virtual World. So if you missed that, that was definitely awesome. I love seeing you, Cori, on that session. And then most recently, guys, she has partnered with Michael Landers, who is founder of Cultural Crossing Inc. I'm just looking at my notes to make sure I get the name right. Culture Crossing Inc., offering workshop style sales training program. And so I'm going to have her talk a little bit about that too. But before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of today, Cori, I'd love for you to take a minute and just kind of tell everybody a little bit about your journey in online sales. You know, where are you currently working? Where are you located in the world? So let's start there.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
And like Jen said, I have been an OC for what feels like forever because everything in this industry changes. Like every other month, you have new benchmarks and new numbers to follow. So it feels like it's been forever. But yes, almost 7 years. I started in North Carolina with Royal Oaks Homes, and I had the best OSC partner ever, Amanda Martin, who works with Jen and Mike. So you might know her too.
Shout
She's
out
awesome.
to Amanda Martin.
She is the best and the best person ever. And yes, we worked together for about 4 years. And then
Yeah.
I worked for another company in Raleigh called HH Homes. Then I ended up moving here to Boise, Idaho, where I currently live. And I work
Mm,
for a company that's based out of Oklahoma. And
okay.
I work remotely for them. So that's been very different, but it's been such a good experience. And I truly
Yeah.
love that they trust me to work all the way from
Yeah.
across the country for them.
Yeah, we could dive into that on a whole other session
Yeah.
on working that's a whole new level of working remotely for
Yeah,
sure. Um,
definitely.
that's awesome. So Beacon Homes in Oklahoma is who you're currently with.
Yep, I'm with Beacon. We built about last year we almost built 100 homes, which was much bigger than our goal was, and we are super happy about that. And this year has been very different than any
Yeah.
other time. But we're navigating through this. this time together and trying to make the best decisions
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. How, you have so much experience in this position. How have you seen like your role and even the market kind of shift this year?
Yeah, so well, one of the biggest things I saw from since I started, and I think it's happened everywhere that I lived and I worked for. So I've had experience in North Carolina. Our builder also worked in Virginia, so I could see like both
Yeah.
markets there too. And then I worked here in Boise, Idaho, and now with Oklahoma. And all three of those, well, four markets, I've seen so much relocation happening.
Mm,
And that's kind of what drew me to this type of different selling, how to understand different cultures and different buyers, and
mm-hmm.
not just like when I started, I thought it was just understanding how do I talk to people that don't speak English very well, and how
Yeah.
do I understand that, and then it became how do I talk to someone from New York about the fact that we can't build basements in Raleigh, and how do I explain
Yeah.
to them? How do I educate someone on the phone when I only have 3 minutes to talk to them? And I don't want them to hang up on me because I say, no, we don't have a basement. So
Yeah.
I, it was, I think that's been like a huge change I've seen.
Hmm.
I've seen a lot of people relocating. So a lot of transition for the OSC to understand different cultures
Mm,
as far as that goes.
yeah.
And then on the day-to-day basis, um, I think when I started, the biggest thing was we would call a bunch of people and it would always go to voicemail. I'm sure you remember that.
You
And
had
now,
your outbound prospecting
yeah.
list, right? 20 calls a day, right?
Oh,
Keeps the mic
yeah.
away, is what we used to say.
Yes. And now I feel like everyone that we call, and I don't know if everyone else is experiencing that, but for me, people are so happy to talk to someone and they want a home so bad that they answer the phone. And it's mind blowing that you
Yes.
get 10 calls and it takes you 2 hours to do them because every single
Yes.
person answers. Everyone wants more info. Everyone wants an appointment. So it's so different.
Yes. That's so right. Like we've been talking a lot about, 200 leads today feels really like 400 leads
Yeah,
because everybody's responsive. It used to be
everyone
like
is.
your biggest group of leads were non-responsive.
Yeah,
Like
it was
you
all
put
DX.
them on a follow-up, you'd call and leave them a voicemail. Maybe
Mhm,
they'd get back to you, right? And there was a lot more outreach. Now it's
mhm.
like you don't have to do that. People are
Yes, which
talking
is
to
good
you.
and bad because then you
Yeah.
relax a little bit. And I started sending first the email, which I would never do before because I was always not so busy that I wanted to call. But now I'm
Yeah.
on the phone while I'm getting a lead, so I'll send an email, and people
Yeah.
reply to the email, and they engage with the email, and they reply, and they want more info, and then they call you because you haven't responded to them, and it's like, hey, it's
Yes.
been 5 minutes, I'm on the other line.
Yes. Can I
So
get an amen in the comment section if that is what you're experiencing right now?
yes.
Yeah, so totally more so interesting, more relo buyers, more conversations, more
Mm,
educating, talking through what it's like to live in this area if you're not from there.
yep.
Which that's kind of the meat and potatoes that we want to get into today. Um, Before we kind of hop into that, tell us a little bit about this program that you're doing with Michael Landers. Talk
Yeah.
about that.
Before I get into that, the last thing I can say that's been different from when I
Yeah.
started to today is that when I started, and you probably remember this, that you would call someone and they would be like, "Oh, I'm still on your website. How cool." Now when I call people, they're not excited because and it's been a minute that they request info and I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess." I guess you're not that surprising because everyone's doing this. There's so many more OSCs
Yeah.
out there. So everyone just really expects it and
Yeah.
it's very different.
Yeah.
Very
So that's a good point, right? It used to be, I mean, man, back in the day, when I did this, it was like, there was a handful,
Mhm.
more than a handful, but it was, still kind of a new position
Yep.
for builders to have. right? You know, when you started out too.
Yep.
And
I
you could
remember the
make a
first
lot of
time.
the first summit, yes.
Yeah.
You could make a lot of headway by being quick and responsive, like, because
Mhm.
you were the only one getting back to people. Now
Yes.
everybody's got an online sales specialist, and now we've got to figure out new ways to stand out among
Mhm.
the crowd,
Yep.
right?
And that's
Yeah.
kind of where the this training
Yes, let's talk about it.
comes to
Yeah.
mind to me because and when I talked about IVS, this was the point that I made. Every company pretty much has an OSE now. And if they don't have someone with the OSE title, they have someone doing what we're doing too. So pretty much everyone has someone answering phones, replying to emails. So everyone's doing the same things. So how are you going to be different? How are you going to make your company stand out? And it's not a training that I would recommend for someone that's like going through their 30-day or 60-day
Hmm.
first time OSC training. Is
Hmm.
for someone that knows the basics and knows them like a boss. Like you have to be a good OSC to be
Yeah.
able to add on more experience and more knowledge to what you're doing so you can
Hmm.
be better. And Michael has been doing this for a very long time. He has amazing clients like the Apples of the tech world, and he's worked with big builders like Lennar and MI and all of them. So he's very experienced, but he's kind of like an industry outsider. So I really love that fresh take
Hmm.
on what we do, and he's not afraid to tell me like, well, this is really old and we should like think differently about what we're doing. He's also taught me a lot, and a lot of things that me myself as an immigrant I was still saying wrong. Like I was
Mm.
just talking to Jen about calling cultural
Yeah.
buyers and
Yeah.
how we've always said that, and we probably shouldn't because everyone has a different culture. So what really is a
Yeah.
cultural buyer, right? You have South Carolina culture, you have Idaho culture. What is it? I don't know, but there
Right.
but there is a culture.
Right. It's not fair to like stereotype and say cultural buyers because really everybody is a cultural
Mhm.
buyer. So what did you tell me? What do we say?
Was the PC term.
What's the PC term?
It's buyers from different backgrounds. And
Yes.
it helps because it kind of encompasses everything from different countries to different ages. And to me, as an OSC, that was huge when I started because I wanted to communicate the way that I liked, which was not the way that people my mother-in-law's age would want to communicate.
So true. Like know
So,
your audience.
yes.
Figure that. Yeah.
And how do you we'll be doing different listening techniques,
Mhm.
different communication techniques too, and then some like basics, how to slow down when you're on the phone, how do you help other people understand what you're saying in English. So that's kind of what we're working on, and I'm just super excited because I was an immigrant when I moved here, and I was just telling Jen when I started as an OSC, not only did I learn the OSC part of my job, but I also learned the American way of real estate and buy-in and how does that work? Because I am from Argentina, so in Argentina and in most Latino and
Yeah.
like European countries, when you buy a home, it's your forever home. You renovate that thing until there's no more room in your lot to put stuff. So when I found out people were buying homes every 3 to 5 years, I was like, this is crazy, but I guess it is what it is. So how I had to learn the American way, and to me is I think as an OSC, when you have those tools
Yeah.
to help you, you're so much better and you're less nervous when you're on the phone. So whether you work
So
with people,
true.
yeah, like I had no idea how
Hmm.
to overcome objections. And once I knew like Mike's scripts, I would just pick up the phone all day long and call people and be like, I'm ready. Throw whatever you want at me. So I think it's the
Yeah.
same for cultural buyers because when the phone rings and you see that name come in as a caller ID and you know you're not going to understand what they're going to say and you feel so bad because our nature as OSCs is nurturing and helping,
Yeah.
and you can't because you don't know how to do it is so sad. So just
So,
understanding how to work with other people is so helpful
yeah.
to me.
So what do you feel like in your experience and talking with other, online sales specialists, what are some of the challenges, that you've experienced and heard from others
Yeah,
when
so for
working with buyers
yeah.
from different backgrounds?
So like I said, they could be communicating problems, like
Hmm.
communication problems, meaning they don't understand English very well when we're on the phone.
Hmm.
And so that would be like number one. How do
Yeah.
you make yourself more explicit when you're speaking, or slowing down, or what are the cues that you need to listen to when you're on the phone with other people that will help you? So that would be one. The other thing I would say was really hard for me was understanding why people wanted certain facing nods, for example. And I don't know if a
Oh,
lot of people are dealing with that, but
yes.
I dealt with that in Raleigh.
Hmm.
I know people have had issues
Hmm.
of people not wanting to meet with you because you're a woman and things like that.
Hmm.
And a lot of times I would take that very personal, like, why are you being rude to me? Why are you
Yeah.
lying to me about your price range? And then when I found out after talking to Michael, I was like, it's not me. They're not doing it to me. It's the way that they're conditioned by their culture to
Yeah.
talk a certain way, to understand that they want an east facing lot because for their religion, this
Hmm.
is the more, oh, sorry, I have a fuzzy plant in my face. This is a more beneficial way for the house to face to be a better environment for them. So once
Hmm.
I understood the meaning of the request, it was so much better for me to be understanding of like, oh, it's not just them being spoiled brats. It's
Yeah.
just it's just their
Yeah.
culture. It's like how we like to have a big yard to have barbecues, and I wouldn't expect someone to be judgy because I want a bigger yard if they don't
Hmm.
understand that. So
Yeah.
that was huge to me, understanding that it's their culture,
Yeah, I
really.
think I think everybody listening can relate, has had some type of experience that way, right? Do you have any tips, tricks, go-to process, advice when you come up, when you have this situation?
I would say, and this goes with any type of different background, any type of other language that you're communicating with, or culture, or anything, is just keep asking questions, and don't ask them in like an inquisitive, like, in it. I don't know how to say it, but don't ask them just to ask them. Ask them with like genuine curiosity. And I think people really love talking about themselves.
Mhm.
And the more you ask them, the more they'll explain it to you. And ask them like nicely. Like, may I ask why are you looking for east facing? Can I know why? Is that okay for you to tell me? And then they'll go into the whole, some people will go into the whole details. And some other people will just be really short, like, oh, I just want east or
Yeah.
north. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
well, no worries. But you'll understand if it's like I said, not just them wanting that because they
Hmm.
want it, but more like the meaning behind the why.
Yeah.
So just being genuinely curious to me is very important because it's part of like, when you take the OSC test and your personality comes back and you're like, oh yeah, that's how I am. I want to nurture people, I want to take care of them.
Yeah.
And that's part of my nature. I want to understand why you want this
Yeah.
so I can help you better.
Do you do you have any advice for like if there is such a huge communication barrier there and
Mhm.
you just are not able to understand what they're saying and they're not able to understand what you're saying, what do you do in that situation?
So normally, and this comes from hands-on experience from when my parents lived in China, which is the you can't you really, there's no way to understand what's going on when you're talking to someone in such a different language.
Yeah.
Um, we would just pull out our phones and write down what we were trying to say. So when I'm on the phone with someone and I cannot understand them, and or sometimes you get the people that will speak to you on speakerphone and have a really heavy accent, and you're
Yes.
like, I cannot understand you. I'm so sorry. I apologize, and sometimes I hang up the phone and I send them a quick text like, hey, I this is Cori from Beacon Homes. Is it okay if we text? And then we go into a detailed conversation over text, which I don't mind because
Mhm.
it's better and they understand me, and then they have time to go into Google Translate and translate what I'm saying, which to my parents
Right.
that was so helpful. So I know. and
Yeah.
and most of the conversations I have with people with really really heavy accents, or that are in a location that has terrible reception, is
Hmm.
over text or over email, because it allows them to slow down and allows me to slow down, because with my accent plus how fast I speak, people don't understand me half the time. So
Yeah.
it's very helpful to be able to write down and translate, always. So that would be my advice. Just
Yeah. That's great advice. Yeah.
written,
So
written
if you can
communication.
move, because to your point, um, in that situation, most people can have, the tools on their end to do like the Google Translate so that they can, translate what they're saying back to you, and receiving on the receiving end, it can translate what you're saying. And just saying, hey, would it be okay if we move this to a text conversation or an email conversation or something like that? I think is really good advice.
And sometimes most people that have a really, really heavy accents will have children that speak English really well. So sometimes
Oh,
asking if someone has another family member that can translate and kind of relate to them better is a really good option too.
I
And
love that. Hmm.
don't judge sometimes if you get phone call from people that sound really young, because they might be helping their parents.
Good point. I hadn't really thought about that, but gosh, you're right. That's really good. And you're fluent in Spanish and Italian?
Yes.
That is so awesome. So
Yes,
have you had to use your Spanish and Italian? Have you had
Italian.
any? Yeah.
Italian, not at all. When we were in Raleigh, I did help a bunch with Spanish.
Mhm.
Um, and we had someone that I even showed up to her closing, and I went to her house after her house closed. I mean, it was such a happy moment for
Mhm.
her to be able to buy a new home. So it was great. I helped her from
Mhm.
like her first phone call all the way to closing. So it
Yeah.
was very rewarding for her because she had someone that could like not just translate, but like understand how what she was going through.
Yeah.
So it was beautiful. I loved it.
I can remember sometimes customers would have also like a realtor helping them that was, you know, fluent in their language as well.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had that situation before?
Yes, and that's another big reason why I think this training is so good, and it's because you can target those realtors that will keep having people from. I know I see it a lot in Chinese culture and in Indian culture. They will have one realtor that works for a certain tech company and just gets referrals and referrals and referrals. So just having that friendship with that realtor,
Mhm.
and being able to understand what does he want, so every time he calls you he doesn't
Yeah.
have to explain it again. It's huge. So yes, I do see
Yeah.
that a lot for sure.
That's awesome. Well, thank you is there anything else that you would like to share? Or any other words of wisdom, things that we should think about as online sales specialists
I mean,
as we're navigating
mostly
this?
just have empathy for people, and this comes to mind for me because when we moved different places, we had to learn a new language with my family, and we had to find a new home, and the people that are coming to you that you have a hard time understanding, they are having the hardest time because they're moving to a new country where they don't understand anything, or they don't understand the language, they don't understand the culture here, and they're asking you for help, and you are the OSC for your company. So how are you going to put the best foot forward to not only be welcoming for your company, but for these people to have a good experience, because
Mhm.
they're asking for help. It's not just that you're reaching out to them as a third party. No, they're
Right.
asking for help. So how are you going to do that? So just be
Yeah.
just have a lot of empathy for them and for everyone,
That's
honestly.
well, right. Yeah. I mean, I think, I think our customers in general
Yeah.
are going through a lot right now, you know, and just shifting that perspective of, gosh, if we're frustrated and it's hard for us to understand, imagine their frustration level of in this market and trying to, look for a new home and, hitting those roadblocks. So
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
definitely. That and missing family, missing food from your place. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
so different.
that's true. That's true. Kind of on another note, but something you mentioned earlier, dealing with a lot of relocation buyers, even as simple as, in the US, the different backgrounds, somebody living in Virginia that moves to Oklahoma
Hmm.
has a different, you know, background or what they're used to than what it's like living in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of online sales specialists are dealing with relo buyers right now.
Hmm.
So I think your point of asking a lot of questions, right? Really understanding what they're coming from and explaining kind of how the homes are built in your neck of the
And what to
woods,
expect,
and
right?
just remembering that, yeah, that there's no
Yeah.
basements in Virginia, but there might be basements in Oklahoma, like,
Yeah. And what are you using that basement for? Is it going to be just because you want storage? Well, there's more space for 4-car garages here, so let's build you a 4-car garage.
right.
Oh, good, I hadn't thought about that. That
Yeah,
that type
exactly.
of situation. And
Yeah.
the other thing is don't stereotype thinking they're moving from California and a small yacht lot would be good for them because they may have had a really big lot in California too. So
Mhm,
asking and asking and asking and asking so many questions. And I think that's
mhm.
what you and Mike tell people all the time. Like, just
Yeah.
understand why.
Yeah. Understand the why. Exactly. It's, this last year, we've gotten away with a lot of surface level
Mm,
conversations, right?
yeah.
Because we haven't had, I mean, it's been easier than ever to set appointments. I think we
Yeah.
can all agree. Like it's not hard. I have something that you want. Let's, and we have to continue to work those muscles of being curious, asking the why, finding out, the true pain points behind why somebody's calling you and what they really need. So I love that. That's great advice. All right, I'd like to shift gears and get a little personal with you as we wrap up our online people talking. And, you're a working mom, you have two little ones. How old are your kids now?
3 and 2.
3 and 2. Holy cow.
Yep.
Um, how do you manage this position and two little ones? What advice can you give for those working online sales specialists out there with young ones?
Yeah, so not only do I have 2 little ones, but I have 2 crazy dogs. So I'm sure everyone has that at home too. But I would say give yourself a lot of grace because you're not only a mom, but you're working and providing for your family. So be proud of what you're doing, and hopefully you have a good support system at home, or you have the opportunity to pay for daycare or to send your little ones to preschool or just school.
Mhm.
But I think as I don't have anything to say for me because I'm just grateful that I've had the opportunity to provide for them and pay for daycare because otherwise I couldn't do what I do because this
Yeah,
job is, you know how it is. You might have a
yeah.
day when you're like, well, why am I paying for daycare? It's been so slow. And I'm just doing outbound calls, and I could have done that with them running around. I could have locked my
Yeah,
door in here. And then you have days when you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't even had lunch yet. So
yeah.
it's it's part of the job, and I
Mhm.
think it's been I've been doing it for so long, and I did it so long before I had kids that I think my little ones are gonna like talk and just set appointments from like
They just from listening to you, they've absorbed, right?
yeah,
We've got future online sales and
yeah.
marketers in the making.
Like, funny note,
Um,
when Aurora was 1, she went to the summit in Dallas. So I'm like, she was a summit baby. It's in her blood. She's gonna be an OC. So yeah, just give yourself lots of grace, and hopefully you work for a good company that understands that you have a life besides work.
yeah.
I have to give my manager like super like I love my manager. Her name's Beth Bird. She's amazing, and she's also a mom. And just having a woman manager has been life changing, honestly. And
Mhm.
she's the best. So I'm super happy for that.
She's pretty awesome.
She is.
Hearts to Beth Bird, if you're watching. How do you stay fresh and passionate about your job? Because, you've been, like we said, it's going on 7 years in this position.
Yeah.
How do you stay passionate?
Lots of water. No. Definitely. I think the opportunities we had when we would go to the summits in person and
Mhm.
meeting the other OSCs, and I met you there for the first time face to face at the very
Mhm.
first one. And just the friendships I've made since that
Yeah.
time, and just having that chance to connect with them, have them on Facebook, reach out to them like, hey, have you had this happen to you, or what are
Yeah.
you doing with this? I love listening to podcasts from like Blue Tangerine. I love the Group 2 podcast. I love Marketing Proof. I love listening to
Mhm.
everything online sales and marketing related. So that helps me a bunch. And then watching as many free webinars online as I can. And sometimes I put them in the background while I'm doing my website work, updating things, and I just love listening to it. I mean,
Mhm.
it's the best. It's kind of what
I
I do.
love that. I love that so much. You
Mhm.
could go back to the future to your brand new online sales self, new in the role. What advice would you give?
Ugh. I would say, and this may be, what do you call it when it's contradictory or provocative, but I would
Yeah.
say don't follow the money.
Okay.
Um, because in my experience, I've taken opportunities that I thought would make me happier, maybe making more money or having more exposure, and ended up really not liking it and not
Mhm.
enjoying, not having a good family work relationship.
Yeah.
And then I decided to take a pay cut to be happier and to work for a company I really believe in, where I have support from a great marketing company that helps us get really good leads,
Mhm.
and just having, like I said, a really good manager I love. So just
Mhm.
do what feels right for, and it sounds like super like touchy, but like just follow what feels right for you,
No,
your
that's
heart.
great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
it's
just
great
can tell you
advice.
all day long, take your days off, do
Mhm.
what feels right, but no, just do what really feels good for you and your family,
Mhm.
or just you and yourself. Do whatever makes you happy, and hopefully you have that support and you are a good OSC and people trust you to do that. So that's it.
I love that.
Good.
Well, folks, you can see why we love Cori Masters so much. And, Cori, you are the example of just that online sales specialist who gets in the role, does really good work, works hard, but continues to you put yourself out there in the industry. You're constantly learning, like you said, you're staying in touch with industry people, you're learning from them, you're curious, you're feeding your mind with really good information that's out there from different podcasts and webinars that are available. Um, and you have been such a leader in our industry. Like I said, since I met you back in I don't know, 2016, 2015, I don't know, something
Oh,
like
it's like
that.
2014, I think.
2014. Yeah, I don't know.
Forever.
But you continue to just be that beacon out there. So if you don't know Cori, you need to get to know her. Where can people find out information about the work that you're doing with Michael Landers?
Oh, well, they can definitely reach out to me on my Facebook. This
Okay.
is gonna be posted on Facebook, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can reach out to me on Facebook. I have a really long name on Facebook because I have like two last names from my mom and my dad and my married last name, so it's like super long. But you can feel free to reach out to me
Okay.
on here. You can email me too. I'll give Jen my email address. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
even LinkedIn works well too.
Yeah.
I'm
Hit her
not
up
always
on
sure
LinkedIn,
how
guys.
on.
Connect with her on LinkedIn. Definitely, she is definitely someone that you want to get to know. She has a lot of great experience and a lot of great advice and information. So thank you so much, Cori,
No,
for
thank
joining
you.
us on Opt-in. For all of the latest resources, webinars, blogs that Do You Convert offers and events. I know Cori mentioned the summit. We
Yes.
actually have our online summit coming up in August. So you can visit the doyouconvert.com website for information on that. We are going to do it in person as planned this year. So we're really excited to rub elbows with everybody and see everybody in person again. So definitely check that out. And thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.